Look up at the night sky for long enough and you'll start to notice something strange. The moon spins. The earth spins. The sun spins. Every planet in our solar system, every moon, every asteroid, every comet, all of them, without exception, are turning. Zoom out further and the entire solar system is rotating around the center of the Milky Way. Zoom out again, and the Milky Way itself is spinning, slowly waltzing through the cosmos. Galaxies spin. Black holes spin. Even the tiny electrons inside the atoms of your fingertips have something physicists call spin. Nothing in the universe seems to sit still. Everything, from the smallest particle to the largest cluster of galaxies, is caught in some kind of rotation. And here's the question that should keep you up at night. Why? Why does the universe seem so obsessed with spinning? Why doesn't anything just sit there, perfectly still, minding its own business? The answer is far stranger, far deeper, and far more beautiful than most people realize. And to really understand it, we need to think the way Richard Feynman thought, by stripping the question down to its bones and asking it like a curious child. Feynman once said that the real fun in physics isn't memorizing formulas, it's understanding why nature does what it does. So let's do exactly that. Let's pretend for a moment that we know nothing. Imagine the universe as a giant kitchen, and we're trying to figure out why the soup keeps swirling. You probably guessed that someone stirred it, and in a sense, that's the right instinct. But who or what did the stirring? Because if you trace the rotation of the Earth back in time, you find it inherited its spin from the cloud of gas and dust that formed the solar system. And that cloud got its spin from the larger region of the galaxy it collapsed out of. And that region got its spin from the structure of the Milky Way. And the Milky Way got its spin from the early universe itself. So the question isn't really why does the Earth spin? The question is, why was the universe born already turning? To answer that, we have to start with something more basic, a concept Feynman loved to dwell on, because most people get it wrong. Most people think that motion needs a cause. If something is moving, surely something must be pushing it. That's how it feels in everyday life. You push a shopping cart, it moves. You stop pushing, it stops. But this is one of the great illusions of physics. Friction tricked humanity for thousands of years. Aristotle himself believed that the natural state of things was rest, and that motion required a constant force. It took Galileo and then Newton to overturn that idea, and to reveal one of the deepest truths about the universe. Motion doesn't need a cause. Rest doesn't need a cause. What needs a cause is change. An object in motion stays in motion. An object at rest stays at rest, unless something interferes. Now apply the same idea to spinning. A spinning object doesn't need a continuous push to keep spinning. Once it's rotating, it will keep rotating forever, unless something stops it. This is what physicists call the conservation of angular momentum. And it's not just a rule, it's one of the most profound symmetries in nature. Angular momentum can't be created out of nothing, and it can't be destroyed. It can only be transferred. So if you find a spinning galaxy today, you can be absolutely certain that its spin came from somewhere. It was passed down, like an heirloom, from an earlier configuration of matter, and that earlier configuration got its spin from something earlier still. The chain of rotation stretches all the way back to the beginning of time. Here's where things get interesting. Imagine an enormous, almost unimaginably vast cloud of hydrogen gas drifting through the early universe. It's cold, thin, and barely moving. But barely moving doesn't mean perfectly still. There are tiny random motions in every direction. Some atoms drift slightly left, others slightly right, some up, some down. On average, these motions cancel out, but not perfectly. There's always a tiny imbalance, a whisper of net rotation. In a small cloud, this whisper is meaningless. But gravity has a way of amplifying whispers into screams. When that cloud begins to collapse under its own gravity, something remarkable happens. As the cloud shrinks, that tiny initial rotation gets faster and faster. This is the same effect you see when a figure skater pulls in her arms and starts spinning so fast she becomes a blur. It's angular momentum at work. The total amount of rotation stays the same, but as the radius shrinks, the speed of rotation must increase to compensate. So a barely noticeable swirl in a giant gas cloud becomes a furious spin in the small, dense object it collapses into. This is how stars are born spinning. This is how planets are born spinning. This is how galaxies, and ultimately black holes, are born spinning. The universe didn't need a cosmic finger to flick everything into motion. All it needed was the tiniest imperfection in stillness, and gravity did the rest. But Feynman would push us further here. He would ask, where did those tiny initial motions come from? Why wasn't the early universe perfectly smooth, perfectly still, perfectly boring? And here we run into one of the most beautiful surprises in modern physics. The answer lies in quantum mechanics. In the very first fractions of a second after the Big Bang, the universe was so small that quantum effects dominated everything, and quantum mechanics has a strange rule: nothing can ever be perfectly still. The uncertainty principle forbids it. Every field, every particle, every patch of empty space is constantly jittering with tiny fluctuations. These fluctuations are not noise, they are not errors, they are a fundamental feature of reality. And during a brief but explosive period called cosmic inflation, those tiny quantum jitters were stretched to enormous sizes, light years across, becoming the seeds from which all the structure in the universe would grow. So when you look at a spinning galaxy today, you're looking at the magnified ghost of a quantum fluctuation that happened in the first 10 to the minus 32 seconds of existence. The rotation of the Andromeda galaxy, the rotation of the sun, the rotation of the Earth beneath your feet. All of it, ultimately, traces back to a quantum hiccup in the fabric of spacetime itself. That by itself should give you goosebumps. The reason your day is divided into 24 hours, the reason the sun rises and sets, the reason there even is a sun, all of it depends on the fact that empty space cannot be empty. But let's stay with Feynman for another moment, because there's a deeper question lurking here, one he was famous for asking. Why do these laws hold? Why is angular momentum conserved at all? You might think it's just an experimental fact, something we observed and wrote down, but it's actually a consequence of something much deeper. In the early 20th century, a brilliant mathematician named Emmy Noether proved one of the most elegant theorems in all of physics. She showed that every conservation law in nature comes from a symmetry. Energy is conserved because the laws of physics don't change with time. Momentum is conserved because the laws don't change from place to place. And angular momentum is conserved because the laws of physics don't care which direction we're facing. Spin a coordinate system, and the equations stay the same. The universe is rotationally symmetric, and because of that, only because of that, spinning things keep spinning. Think about how strange that is. The reason your Earth keeps turning, the reason the seasons keep cycling, the reason your morning coffee swirls in your cup, is because the universe has no preferred direction. There is no cosmic up or down. There is no absolute north. The universe doesn't have a front or a back. It is, at its deepest level, perfectly indifferent to orientation, and from that indifference flows the unstoppable persistence of rotation. A symmetry you can't see produces a behavior you can't escape. Now, let's zoom in to a different scale, because the spinning gets even weirder there. When physicists started studying atoms in the early 20th century, they ran into something they couldn't explain. Electrons in atoms weren't just orbiting the nucleus. They had a property that behaved exactly like rotation but couldn't actually be rotation in any classical sense. They called it spin, and the name stuck, but it was misleading from the start. Because if you tried to imagine an electron as a tiny ball spinning on its axis, the math demanded that the surface of that ball move faster than the speed of light, which is impossible. So electrons aren't really spinning the way a top spins, and yet they have angular momentum. They behave magnetically as if they were rotating. They obey all the rules of rotation. They just don't have any little body to do the rotating. Feynman loved this kind of puzzle. He'd say, don't try to picture it. Don't ask what it looks like. Ask what it does. And what spin does is profoundly important. It's the reason atoms have structure. It's the reason two electrons can't occupy the same state, which is the reason chemistry exists, which is the reason you exist. Without that strange, unpicturable, irreducible spin, every electron in every atom would crash down into the lowest energy state. All matter would collapse, and the universe would be a featureless soup. The fact that you have a body, that there are stars, that there is anything at all interesting in the cosmos, comes back to this ghost-like rotation that isn't even a rotation, so we have rotation at every scale. Quantum spin in the heart of every particle, planetary spin in every world, galactic spin in every galaxy. And here's the natural next question. Does the universe as a whole spin? You might think it must. If everything inside it is spinning, surely the whole thing is too. But this is where physics gives us a beautiful and humbling answer. As far as we can tell, the universe as a whole does not rotate. Astronomers have looked very carefully at the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, for any sign that we live inside a spinning cosmos. They've measured patterns of light from the deepest parts of space. They've checked whether distant galaxies on one side of the sky behave differently from those on the other. The verdict so far is that the universe is astonishingly non-rotating. Whatever angular momentum exists inside it adds up, on the largest scales, to almost nothing. The spins of all the galaxies seem to cancel each other out, like a vast cosmic symphony where every note has its perfect counternote. This is one of the most underappreciated facts in modern cosmology. The universe is full of motion, full of swirling, full of rotation, yet the total rotation of everything is zero. It's as if nature is balancing the books. Every clockwise galaxy is matched, somewhere in the cosmos, by a counterclockwise one, and that, in turn, hints at something deep about the conditions of the Big Bang. The universe didn't begin with a net spin. It began with stillness, but a stillness so perfect, so symmetric, that it could not survive its own quantum nature. Out of that perfect symmetry came every imperfection, every swirl, every storm. And here's a thought experiment Feynman might have enjoyed. Imagine you're floating in deep space, completely alone, surrounded by absolute void. No stars, no light, no reference points. Are you spinning or are you not? It seems like you should be able to tell. If you're spinning, you'll feel dizzy. Your arms will fly outward. Your inner ear will scream. But here's the strange part. How does your body know it's spinning if there's nothing else in the universe to spin relative to? This is the question that drove Ernst Mach, then Einstein, into philosophical knots. Mach suggested that rotation is only meaningful relative to the rest of the matter in the universe. That when your arms fly out as you spin, what you're really feeling is the gravitational pull of every distant star and galaxy resisting your motion. In other words, the entire universe is in some way participating in the experience of your spin. Einstein took this idea seriously when he built general relativity. He didn't fully solve it, but the spirit of Mach's principle is woven into modern physics. To spin is to relate, in some deep way, to the whole rest of the cosmos. You can't be alone in spinning. The act of rotating is a conversation between you and everything that exists. Take that thought to its logical conclusion. When the Earth spins, it's not just turning on its own axis. It's turning relative to the average gravitational field of every distant galaxy. When you watch a Foucault pendulum slowly trace its arc across the floor of a museum, you're not just watching a pendulum. You're watching it stay aligned with the distant stars while the Earth quietly rotates beneath it. Every twirl of every dancer, every spin of every figure skater, every lazy turn of a maple seed falling to the ground is in some sense plugged into the cosmic background, oriented against the entire mass of the observable universe. That is what rotation really is. It's not local. It's not isolated. It's a universal handshake. There's another mind-bending wrinkle here. Einstein's theory of general relativity predicts that a spinning massive object actually drags spacetime around with it, like a spoon stirring honey. This is called frame dragging, and it isn't science fiction. It's been measured. A satellite called Gravity Probe B, launched in 2004, contained gyroscopes more precise than any clock or instrument humans had ever built. Over the course of years, those gyroscopes drifted by a tiny predicted amount, confirming that the Earth was twisting the very fabric of space around it as it spun. Black holes do this on a far more dramatic scale. A spinning black hole drags space around itself so violently that, near its surface, nothing, not even light, not even reality itself, can stand still. You are forced to rotate with the black hole. You become part of its dance. Spinning, in this sense, is not just something objects do in space. Spinning is something they do to space. Now bring all of this together. The Earth turns under your feet because gravity squeezed a quantum whisper out of the early universe and amplified it into a planetary heartbeat. The sun blazes overhead because spinning gas clouds compress their hydrogen into nuclear fire. The galaxies hold their majestic spiral arms because rotation balances gravity, just barely, in a delicate equilibrium that has lasted billions of years. The atoms in your body cohere because of an abstract, unpicturable rotation buried in their very nature. And all of this rotation is tied, by symmetry and by relativity, to the rest of the universe, to every distant star you've ever seen, and to every star you never will. So the next time someone asks you why everything in the universe spins, you can give them the simple answer. You can say, because nothing perfectly stops what was never perfectly still, and because the universe doesn't care which way you're facing. But you'll know the deeper truth. The universe spins because emptiness can't be empty, because symmetry breeds persistence, because the laws of physics don't play favorites with direction, because every twirl in your coffee cup is an echo of a quantum tremor at the dawn of time, and because, in some strange and beautiful way, every spinning thing is in dialogue with the whole rest of existence. Feynman once said that nature uses only the longest threads to weave her patterns, so each small piece of her fabric reveals the organization of the entire tapestry. Spin is one of those long threads. Pull on it, and you find quantum mechanics. Pull harder, and you find general relativity. Pull harder still, and you find the structure of the cosmos itself. It's the same thread that runs through your morning coffee, through the hurricane satellite images on the evening news, through the rings of Saturn, through the disk of the Milky Way, through the heart of every black hole. One thread. One question. One staggering answer. Maybe that's the most Feynman-like lesson of all. The questions a child asks, why does it spin? Why does it fall? Why does the sun shine? Are not childish at all. They are the doorways into the deepest truths we know. Most people walk past those doorways every day without noticing them. The trick, the joy, the secret of physics is to stop and step through. Because once you do, you realize that even the simplest, most ordinary motion, a leaf turning in the wind, a coin flipping through the air, the slow spin of the earth carrying you toward another sunrise, is not ordinary at all. It is the universe, remembering its own beginning. It is gravity amplifying a quantum whisper. It is symmetry refusing to be broken. It is everything talking to everything else, in the only language the cosmos has ever spoken, motion. And once you've heard it, once you've really heard it, you'll never look at a spinning thing the same way again.